Hey, it's Aaron. Thanks for coming to my channel. I've been reading some stories from this book, Heroes of Irish Mythology by Jeremiah Curtin, and it's an anthology collected by a U.S. citizen who became a linguist and a folklorist in the late 19th century. And there's been about 20 stories. I'm on the last two stories, and this one's called The Cotter's Son and the Half Slim Champion. Once upon a time, there was a poor cotter in Erin, and he had three sons. Whether it was well or ill that he reared them, and then died. When their father was dead and buried, the three sons lived with their mother for a day and a year, and at the end of that time, the eldest brother said, I will go to seek my fortune in the world. He took his mother's blessing with him and went away on the following morning. The two sons and the mother lived on together for another day and a year, when the second son said, I will go out to seek my fortune. He went away like the first brother. The mother and the youngest son lived together for a day and a year, and then the mother died. When she was buried, the youngest of the three brothers, whose name was Arthur, went out in the world to seek his fortune. He traveled and was walking always for a day and a year without finding a master, till on the afternoon of the last day of the year he took service with a hill. On the last day of Arthur's service with the hill, the half-slim champion came in the afternoon and asked would he play a game of cards. If you win, said the champion, you will have a castle with lands and cattle of all kinds. If you lose, you will do me a service. I will play, answered Arthur. With that, they sat down to play, and Arthur won. Now Arthur had lands and a castle and cattle of all kinds and wealth in abundance. The half-slim champion went on his way, and Arthur lived for a day and a year on his lands. On the last day of the year, the champion came in the afternoon, and with him was the most beautiful lady that man set eyes on. Will you play a second game? Asked the champion. If you lose, you will do me a service. If you win, I will give you this lady as wife. I will play with you, said Arthur. They played, and Arthur won. Arthur lived with his wife in the castle for a day and a year, and on the last afternoon the champion came the way leading a hound. They played the third time, and Arthur won the hound. The champion went his way, and Arthur lived for a day and a year with his wife in the castle in ease, in plenty, and in great delight. On the afternoon of the last day, the champion came the fourth time. Arthur's wife saw him at a distance and said to her husband, My advice is to play no more than with that champion. Remain as you are and keep out of harm's way. But Arthur would not listen to the wife, nor be said by her. He went out to play with the champion and lost. I put you under bonds, said the champion, not to sleep 2 nights in the same bed, nor eat 2 meals off the same table, but to be walking through the world and searching always till you find the birth that has never been born and that never will be. The champion turned, walked away, and disappeared. Arthur went home in grief, and when he sat down, the chair that was under him broke into pieces. I told you, said the wife, not to play with him. What has he put on you? To be walking and searching ever and always through the world till I find the birth that has never been born and never will be. Take the hound with you, said the wife, and go first to the castle of the son of the king of Lochlin. Take service with him, you may learn something there. Away went Arthur next morning, and the hound with him. They were long on the road, lodging one time at a house, and another time where the night found them, till at last a great castle was in sight. When the hound saw the castle, he grew so wild with delight that he broke his chain and rushed away. But if he did, Arthur followed, and when the hound sprang into the castle, Arthur was at his side. It was lucky for you, cried the son of the king of Lochlin, to come in and with the hound. Without that, you'd have been done for. Who are you, and where are you going? I am a man in search of a master. I am seeking a man, said the king's son. Will you take service with me? I will, answered Arthur. He hired for a day and a year, and wages according to service. Arthur went to work on the following morning, and his first task was to bring faggots from the forest. When he went to the forest, he found half of it green and the other half dry. Nothing was growing in the dry part. All was withered and dead. Arthur collected dry twigs and brought them to the castle. In the evening he spoke to the king's son, and this is what he asked of him. Why is half of your forest green and the other half withered and dry? A day and 7 years ago, said the king's son, a terrible serpent came the way and took half of my forest for herself. In that part she is still living till this time. That is the green part. She knocked the life out of my half. That is the driest part. Why do you not take wood from the green part? Asked Arthur. Neither you nor all who ever came before you could do that, said the son of the king. Next morning Arthur went out for faggots the second time. He stopped before the largest green tree to be found in the forest, and was cutting away at it. The moment the serpent saw this, she came out and called, Why are you cutting my timber? I am cutting it because I am sorry to see you as you are, said Arthur. Without a roof over you or a shelter of any kind, I wish to build a house to protect you. When the serpent heard this, she was glad and thankful to Arthur. When he had 2 wedges in the tree and it cutly part, he said, If yourself would only come over now and put your tail in the cut and help me, we could throw down this tree. She went to him then and put her tail in the cut. Arthur knocked out the wedges and left her tail in the tree. She begged and cried, screaming, The tree is killing me! The tree is killing me! Let me free! Let me out of this! It wasn't to let you out that I put you in, cried Arthur. What he did then was to jump behind her and vex her until he got her in the way that, out of rage and great strength, she tore up the tree with its roots and 7 acres and 7 ridges of land with it. Arthur was vexing the serpent until she rushed into the dry part of the forest and was fastened among the trees. Then he cut down dry trees and piled them on the serpent and on the green tree till they were the size of a hill. In the evening he drove her to the castle before him with all the hill of dry wood on her. When a maid was going from the castle for water and saw this, she ran in with the story that Arthur was coming home with the serpent and all the dry wood of the forest above on her back. When the people inside heard this, they were in dread that she'd kill them all, and they rushed out to run away. There was one girl in the castle who heard the tidings too late, or was slow in preparing, for when she was ready, the serpent was at the door. Where are the people of the castle? Asked Arthur. All made away and took their lives with them, said she. Run now and call them back, said Arthur. I am in dread to go out. I will not go unless you take the head off the serpent. Arthur swept the head off the serpent. The girl ran after the people and brought them back. Arthur piled all the wood near the castle. The king's son was delighted to have so much fuel and was so glad that he took Arthur to his bed to sleep that night with him. It's a wonder, said Arthur, that a good king's son as you to be without a wife. I had a wife, said the king's son, but the giant with 5 heads, 5 necks, and 5 lumps on his heads came and took her to the eastern world. Why did you not take her from him? Neither I nor you, nor all that ever came before us could do that. On the following morning Arthur rose, washed his face, rubbed his eyes, and said to the king's son, I'm going to the eastern world to bring your wife back. Away he went, but the king's son would not believe that any man living could bring back the wife. When Arthur came to the castle of the giant in the eastern world, the giant himself was not in, only the wife of the king of the Lachlan's son, who said, There is no use in your delaying in this place. You'll be killed if you stay till the giant comes home. I'll never leave the castle till I see the giant, and when I go home, you'll go with me. It wasn't long till Arthur heard the great voice of the giant. As he came toward the castle, the bottom of the forest was rising to the top, and the top of the forest was going to the bottom. In front of the giant went a shaggy goat, and another behind him. In his hand was a club with a yellow flea on the end of it, and on one shoulder he carried a dead hag, and on the other a great hog of a wild boar. Foo-fa, my beard, cried the giant. I'll catch the smell of a lying rogue from Erin Too big for one bite and too small for two. I don't know whether to blow him away through the air or put him under my feet. You filthy giant, 'tis not to give satisfaction to you or the like of you that I came, but to knock satisfaction out of you. I want only time till morning to give you what you came for, said the giant. It was daybreak when Arthur was up and struck the pole of combat. There wasn't a calf, kid, lamb, foal, or child awaiting birth that didn't turn 5 times to the right and 5 times to the left from the strength of the blow. What do you want? Asked the answering man. 700 against me, and 700 to every 100 of these, till I find the man who can put me down. You fool of the world, it would be better for you to hide under a leaf than to stand before the giant. The giant came out to Arthur, and the two went at each other like two lions of the desert or two bulls of great growth, and fought with rage. They made the softest places hardest, and the hardest places softest. They brought spring wells up through the dry slate rocks, the great tufts of green rushes through their own shoestrings. The wounds that they made on each other were so great that little birds flew through them, and men of small growth could crawl through on their hands and knees. It was dark in the end of day when Arthur cried out, It is a bad thing for me, filthy giant, to have a fine day spent on you. With that he gave one blow on the 5 necks and sent the 5 heads flying through the air. After a while the heads were coming down, croning, singing the coronach. Arthur caught them and struck the giant's breast with them. The body and heads fell dead on the ground. The wife of the son of the king of Lochlin ran out now, smothered Arthur with kisses, washed him with tears, and dried him with a cloak of fine silk. She put her hand under his arm, and they went to the castle of the giant. The two had good entertainment, plenty to eat, and no bit dry. They made 3 parts of that night, 1 part for conversation, 1 for tales, and 1 for sleep. When they rose in the morning, the woman said, It is a poor thing for us to go and leave here behind all the gold the giant had. Let us not be in so great a hurry. We'll find a cure for that, said Arthur. They went out, found 3 ships belonging to the giant, and filled them with gold. When the 3 ships were laden, Arthur took hawsers, and lashed the first ship to the second to the third, raised the anchors, and sailed away. When he was in sight of Lochlin, a messenger was walking toward the water and saw the ships coming. He ran to the castle and cried to the king's son, The servant boy is coming and bringing your wife with him. That I will never believe, said the king's son, till she puts her hand in my hand. The king's son had kept his head by the fire without rising from the hearth all the time that Arthur was away. When the wife came in and put her hand on his hand, he rose up and shook 7 tons of ashes from himself with 7 barrels of rust. There was a great gladness in the castle, and the king's son was ready to do anything for Arthur. He was so thankful to him. Arthur's time was out on the following day. The king's son spoke to him and asked, What am I to give you now for the service? What wages do you expect? No more than is just. I hope that you will find out for me who is the birth that has never been born and never will be. That is no great thing for me to discover, said the king's son. There was a hollow place in the wall of the castle near the fireplace, and in that hollow the king's son kept his own father and gave him food. He opened a secret door and brought out the old king. Now tell me, father, said he, who is it that has never been born and never will be? That's a thing of which no tidings have been given or ever will be, replied the king. When the father wasn't giving him the answer he wanted, the son put the old king standing on a red-hot iron griddle. It's fried and roasted you'll be till you answer my question and tell who is the birth that has never been born and that never will be, said the son. The old king stood on the griddle till the marrow was melting in the bones on his feet. He took them off then, and the son asked him a second time. That's a question not to be answered by me, said the king. He was put standing again on the red-hot griddle. and kept on it till the marrow was melting in the bones to his knees. Release me out of this snow. Release me out of this now, cried the king, and I will tell where that birth is. They took him from the griddle. He sat down then and told this story to the sun in presence of Arthur. I was walking out beyond there in the garden one day when I came on a beautiful rod, which I cut and took with me. I discovered soon after that the rod of that was a rod of enchantment, and never let it go from me. When I went walking or riding in the day, I took the rod with me. In the night, I slept with it under my pillow. Misfortune came on me at last, for I left the rod in my chamber one time that I started walking away to go fowling. After I had gone a good piece of road, I remembered the rod and hurried home to get it. When I came to the castle, I found a dark, tall man inside in my chamber with the queen. They saw me, and I turned from the door to let them slip out, and think that I hadn't seen them. I went to the door not long after and opened it. Your mother was standing inside, not 2 feet from the threshold. She struck me right there with the rod and made a wild deer of me. When she had me a deer, she let out a great pack of hounds. For every hand's breadth of my body there was a savage dog to tear me and hunt me to death. The hounds chased me and followed till I ran to the faraway mountains. There I escaped. So great was my swiftness and strength that I brought my life with me. After that I went back to injure the queen, and I did every harm in my power to her grain and her crops and her gardens. One day she sprang up from behind a stone wall. When I thought no one near me, struck me with the rod and made a wolf of me. She called a hunt then. Hounds and men chased me fiercely till evening. At nightfall I escaped to an island in a lake where no man was living. Next day I went around each perch of that island. I searched every place and found only a she-wolf. But the wolf was a woman enchanted years before, enchanted when she was within 1 week of her time to give birth to a hero. There she was, but the hero could not be born unless she received her own form again. There was little to eat on the island for the she-wolf, and still less after I came. What I suffered from hunger in that place no man can know, for I had a wolf's craving, and only scant food to stop it. One day above another, I was lying half asleep, half famished, and dreaming. I thought that a kid was near me. I snapped at it and awoke. I had torn open the side of the she-wolf. Before me was an infant which grew to the size of a man in 1 moment. That man is the birth that has never been born and never will be. That man is the half-slim champion. When I snapped at the she-wolf, I bit her so deeply that I took a piece from behind the ear of the child and killed the mother. When you go back to the half-slim champion and he asks, who is the man that has never been born and never will be, you will say, try behind your own ear, you will find the mark on him. The infant, grown to a man before my eyes, attacked me to kill me. I ran and he followed. He hunted me through every part of that island. At last I had no escape but to swim to the countryside opposite. I sprang to the water, though I had not the strength of the time when I went from the hunters, but on the way were 2 rocks. On these I drew breath and then came to land. I could not have swum 5 perches farther. I lived after that in close hiding and met with no danger till I was going through a small lane one evening and looking behind, saw the hero whose mother I killed on the island. I started. He rushed along after me. I came to a turn and was thinking to go over the wall and escape by the fields when I met my false queen. She struck me with the rod in her fright, and I got back on my own form again. I snatched the rod quickly and struck her. You'll be a wolf now, said I. You'll have your own share of misfortune. And that she sprang over a wall. With that, she sprang over a wall and a gray wolf and ran off through the pastures. A dark, tall man was a little behind and saw everything. He turned to escape, but I struck him with the rod and made a sheep of the traitor in hopes that the gray wolf might eat him. The hero saw all, saw the wolf that I was, turned into a man. I entered the castle. He followed me. I took you at once with me, showed you this hollow place near the chimney, and hid in it. The hero searched every foot of the castle, but found no trace of me. He had no knowledge of who I was, and when you denied that I was, and found no trace of me. He had no knowledge of who I was, and when you denied that I was here, he waited one day, a second day, and then went away, taking your sister and the best hound at the castle. That hero of the island, whose mother I killed, is the half-slim champion. There's nothing he wishes so much as my death, and when he hears who it was that has never been born and never will be, he will know that I am alive yet, and he'll kill half the people in Lochlin, unless he kills me first, or this champion kills him. When Arthur heard the story, he went away quickly from the castle of the King of Lochlin, and never stopped till he came to the hill where he played cards the first time. The half-slim champion was before him there, standing. Have you found the answer, and can you tell me who has never been born and never will be? Try behind your own ear, and you'll find the mark on him. That's true, said the champion, and the man who killed my mother is alive yet. But if he is, he will not be so long, and you'll not leave this till you and I have a trial. The two went at each other then, and it was nearly enough in the day when Arthur had the head off the champion. He put a gad through his ears and took the head on his shoulder, hurried back to the King of Lochlin and threw it on the floor, saying, "Here's the head of the half-slim champion." When the old king heard these words in the place of concealment, he burst out of the wall and went through in his place of concealment. He burst out of the wall and went through the end of the castle, so great was his joy. As soon as he was in the open air, free from confinement and dread, he became the best man in Lochlin. They made 3 parts of that night, which they passed in great enjoyment, and discovered that Arthur's wife was the sister of the son of the King of Lochlin, the lady who was carried away by the half-slim champion and lost in the game of cards. When the old king got the head of the half-slim champion, he gave the 3 ships full of gold to Arthur, and would have given 6 ships if he had them. He was so glad to be free. Arthur took farewell of the old king and his son, and sailed away with his 3 ships full of gold to Erin, where his wife was. That's the end. A story that I probably won't remember for too long. It's very similar to the other stories in this book. There's a lot of overlap. Just for example, the king's son being named Arthur. This is the 3rd story in a row that has that. But there's also, it's quite amusing how when they talk about hospitality and they sit in someone's house, the night is always split into 3 parts. The eating and drinking, the storytelling, or the conversation, the storytelling, and then the sleeping. But there's a lot more. The enchanted rod, being able to shape shift a man, or have others. Sometimes the rod turns into something like a boat. The idea of the queen and the island. And there are other aspects of this that are repeated in other books, like the idea of like saving the princess sort of thing, the saving the woman in distress. Some kind of more individual aspects of this book, that of this story, that are not in the others, is the wolf part, and turning into a stag, which of course there's some Roman stories about that come to mind. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great evening.